Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro rolling out hour number 2. Chris Wynn, in-studio guest today as well. And, you know, we always want to talk about race relations, issues involving race. And there's no better person to have in studio with us than Minister Stretch Sanders, who joins us every week. Stretch, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Bless you guys. Power to the people, and thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Honored to be here again.
We love having you in studio. And by the way, a reminder to the listeners out there, if you want to watch our live stream right now, it's going on the Vegas Take page on YouTube. So a lot of stories to get to, Stretch, always, every week in a short period of time. I want to start with this. There is a Las Vegas rally that is going to be held basically for minorities that are killed by police officers. In the Review-Journal, it was labeled as Justice for Black People Rally, and it is Sunday, I believe.
We held it yesterday.
Yeah.
We held it yesterday.
Oh, it already happened.
Already
Okay.
happened.
So talk to me about this. Talk to me about this rally, why you guys decided to put this thing together, and do you truly believe that this is a huge issue, that minorities, African Americans, are being gunned down by police officers, and these are innocent people that are being gunned down?
Okay, so Tamika Mallory and others who oversee the National Women's March, they have a chapter in Las Vegas that's held by Marcy Wells. So they put a call out to rally for justice for Tatiana, who was shot in her home when an officer didn't announce himself. So every city nationally wanted to do a day of outrage. Yesterday was the day when it was held in front of the Justice Department downtown. And so the Review-Journal was there, and they did name it a Day of Justice for Black People, something like that. But it was a success. I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't.
So this was in honor of this woman. You could that
it was
makes,
an honor of her, and then also we invited the family of Byron Williams to kind of shed some light because we was going to do an action separately to bring justice because the officers still haven't been charged in his case. So we just said, let's just kill two birds with one stone and just bring it together. And so Byron Williams' family was present as well.
Gotcha. And make no mistake about it, that woman who was shot through her window was an innocent woman. It is an awful tragedy, and I really hope that justice is served to that police officer who pulled the trigger, because clearly he wasn't following proper protocol. There's no question.
And that's why we do those actions. If we don't get active, anybody can say, "Oh, I'm upset, I'm angry," but nobody takes that serious.
Sure.
You know, like I said, when we got in the street and stopped traffic, the officer who killed Tashi Brown Farmer was arrested 2 days later. So I'm a firm believer in the Dr. King direct action approach. Voting is cool, boycotting is cool, but picket lines and actually civil disobedience, getting in the street, stopping business as usual, that's what's going to change some things. It was disappointing yesterday that we only had 15 people. You can clearly see it from the picture on the newspaper. But I understand that. So I'm not upset, but I am disappointed. I'm urging that Las Vegas get involved. I don't care if you black, brown, white, red, yellow. If a black person's getting killed unjustly, if you are white, red, or brown, or yellow, you are responsible,
and I would
vice versa.
And I would counter that by also saying, if anybody is killed unjustly, whether you're a minority or not, yes, I do think people need to be involved and speak out. And I can tell you right now, Stretch, if anybody is killed unjustly by a police officer, we're going to talk about it on this show, and we want to hold people accountable. I do believe that the majority of police officers are good people that are not racist people, that are not out to get minorities. But and I know you might disagree with me on that one. But anyway, I want to ask you about another issue involving a campus where I grew up on. It's the UConn campus. A couple of students at UConn were videotaped using the N-word. This was an off-campus party. And now the NAACP chapter is calling on the UConn administration to apply the proper justice. Now, I don't know what exactly they want, but here's my feeling on that. And you know this, Stretch, because we've talked about this. I don't think the N-word should ever be used under any circumstance by anybody, including African Americans. However, should a school get involved on an off-campus party when someone's using the N-word, which I don't condone, but do you think a student should be expelled or suspended for using the N-word at an off-campus party? What are your thoughts on that? Because the NAACP seems to think that should happen.
Well, because that word was given to us by the European American demographic, it's totally different when white people use the word and black people use the word. We have to understand that. Now, granted, nobody should use the word, But the word with ER and the word with GA, it means two different things in the black community. In our community, the GA is a term of endearment. Should it be? Of course not. But the reality is it is. Also, that word is a condition, right? That's a mindset. That's a mentality that people don't see past that. I used to use the word all the time. And with that word comes a behavior. It comes traits with that word. I've been gracious enough to rise out of that condition. Many of us have not. As far as the ER, it's totally different. That word is the word that our ancestors heard when they were being lynched, when they were being slapped, when they were being whipped. So it means a total different meaning. And because a lot of the white family are naive and ignorant to racism, they don't understand. And so they hear us using it and they think it's the same thing. It's two total different meanings.
And I understand where you're going with this. Let me give you a little more details on this story. So these two white students were arrested and charged. The ACLU wants those charges dropped. Now, they didn't say it to anyone, and that doesn't mean what they said was right. I'm not condoning using of the word, but it's not like they, said that towards a minority, an African American. They shouted it out. It happened to be caught on camera. Here's my opinion on this. Here's where I'm going with this. If you use that word and somebody records you using the word, if you lose your job, don't have a problem with that. You're a moron. You shouldn't be using the word to begin with. If you're shamed on social media, you probably deserve it. You shouldn't use the word. But I am not okay with the law saying we're going to charge you and arrest you for using the N-word. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. We still do have freedom of speech. Now, with that freedom of speech, you can still lose your job. You can still be humiliated. I don't have a problem with that. But the law should not say if I call, which I never would, but if I call somebody the N-word, I should be arrested and charged. I think that is absurd.
And we know with the whole freedom of speech thing, that's based on scenario. That's based on situation because, truth be told, there ain't no freedom of speech. Because at the end of the day, there's freedom of speech, but there's more freedom of that speech if you're white. There's less freedom of that speech if you're black, brown, or a person of color.
But Stretch, you think you should go to prison for using the N-word? Because they could do, but Stretch, they could do prison time.
I think it should be a learning moment. I think it should be a teaching moment where they should get consequences, no doubt. Even the person who may use it on the job. It depends on how they used it. Was it in conversation? Was it a derogatory term?
Let's say that someone calls you that word on the street. You catch them on video. They happen to have a couple of kids. They have a good job. Do you want them to lose their livelihood for offending you? Do you think that they should lose their livelihood and they should lose their job? Or would you rather have them? Because when someone says that to you, you're right. Ignorance is a huge part of it. They have no idea what that word actually, how that word deeply affects you. Or would you want them to actually learn why that word affects you and to take 3 to 6 hours out of their day for a full training course or something along those lines, something educational, as opposed to actually taking their livelihood from them?
Well, I agree. I think that if it's done on a college campus, it's a little different then because most likely they're young. It's still room for maturity. If you're like super duper grown in your 40s and you're at your job and using that slur, then yeah, you should be fired because at that point you understand right from wrong. You understand something called appropriation and appropriate times. I mean, you should never use that word, but you definitely know it's inappropriate to use that at the workplace. Now, if you're on the street, things are a little different, right? But you may get that black person who ain't no minister, so you may not get fired, but
Stretch,
you might get something else.
You might get assaulted.
Let me explain to you what they were charged with. Okay, there's a law on the books, and it's been on the books dating back decades. Charged with ridicule on account of creed, religion, color, denomination, nationality, or race. And I want to take some phone calls on this too, because Stretch believes, and I agree with him, that you should probably lose your job if the context is in that manner where you call somebody the N-word. However, in this specific case, I think we both can agree if you use the N-word, not only that, it wasn't not directed towards anybody. And I'm not defending them, but I don't think they should go to jail. I don't think they should be arrested. Let me give out the phone number so people out there can be a part of this conversation. 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of this conversation with Minister Stretch. 702-257-5396.
I would make an argument that the ship has already sailed on this, guys. And look, there's a difference between losing your job and being thrown in jail, obviously, right? There's two different things. As far as losing their job, people already have lost their jobs because of stuff that's gone on social media, things they've said, things they've done on social media because they have a tie to some employer, right? And the employee has that decision. And JD, you brought this up. You bring this up a lot. A lot of it is up to the employer, right? As far as whether or not you keep your livelihood or keep your job. So, I mean, these are two different distinctions I think we need to make when we're talking about, something being said that could lead to prison time for you or being thrown in jail as opposed to something you could lose your job over.
And I also believe that, too, like, okay, for example, the brother who vandalized the church, right? that's a little more bigger than a word because now you
Agree.
physically did something.
Good
So
point.
in that case, yeah, jail time should be given. So it depends on the situation.
The fact that these two kids are trying to get charged with crimes, to me, it sets a terrible precedent. Basically, that means that if you offend someone, it's a crime. That's the precedent moving forward, and that could be a really bad thing for the United States of America.
I don't think unless you threaten somebody, I don't think your word should be used as a crime against you to go to jail. I think we all can agree if you threaten somebody's life, there are certain things you can say.
Calling someone a racial slur and saying I'm going to murder your family are two totally different things.
However, I do believe if you call somebody a racial slur, I do think there are things you can do that can lose your job for that. I think going to jail is a different set of guidelines that I do not agree with.
Yeah, I think that it's substantial. I think it depends on the situation.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean they shouldn't get consequences.
Sure.
You know, should they get probably expelled? Absolutely. Right.
So you think, okay, so hold on. This is interesting. And by the way, the number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Minister Stretch Sanders in studio. Okay, so this is interesting. I don't know if I agree with you on this or not. I'd have to think about it. But you're telling me that you have two students that are intoxicated. Again, not an excuse. I'm not defending them. I'm not saying what they did was right. But you're saying two students at an off-campus party, not calling someone the N-word, but using the N-word, should be expelled from school. That is to me, that is a very harsh punishment.
Well, it's just a matter of I'm just trying to be optimistic in the terms of people to understand there's ways to get around it than just jail time.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be expulsion. It could be suspension, but consequences be held because at the end of the day, what they always say, a drunk man words, sober man thoughts. So so at the end of the day, the point is that you're saying that, you believe what you said, we have to hold you accountable. If we don't hold you accountable, then just like when Donald Trump got in office, he gave some people who already was thinking this the courage to not only think it with them, but to say it.
But why not suspend them for a week or two? They obviously are going through public shaming right now. Obviously, there's probably not a lot of people that want to talk to them. I think an expulsion is an extreme.
Suspension would be fair.
Yeah.
Suspension would be
okay. So you're okay with that?
Yeah,
okay.
It has to be a consequence, though. It can't
That's
be
a consequence.
It can't. Absolutely. It just can't be oh, well, y'all was drunk. We're going to let you go. Because at that point, it looks like, okay, now if there was a black person that used the racial slur, would they be reprimanded? Would they be? So we have to be fair.
I don't think they would. Quite you're telling me if you think two African Americans on an off-campus party use the N-word?
No, I'm talking about racial slur.
Okay.
Understand. The N-word is not a racial slur to the black community. You have to understand
Which I don't agree with.
It's not.
Which I don't agree with.
You know, you don't have to agree with
happen to be white, but I don't agree with that. If African Americans do not want anybody to use the word, it is my personal opinion that they should not use it themselves. Now, yes, I'm white. Yes, I understand. I don't go through the things that, for example, you have to go through on a daily basis. I understand that. But with that being said, I don't think young kids should hear that word and then they'll think it's okay to use the word. I completely disagree with it ever being used.
But let me let you know this. I agree that nobody should use the word. Like I told you, I believe black people are powerful, we're great, we're gods. We shouldn't use language like that. But you have to understand why we use the language. So a demographic that gave us the word can't tell us not to use it no more. It don't work like that. We got that word from white people. Not you, not you, not you. But we heard that word. And we decided to take a negative, make it a positive. Do I agree that if you take poison and put it in a bottle, it's still poison. Or put it in glass or crystal, still poison. But you have to understand we don't view it like that. But it's up to black people, those who are enlightened and educated, to teach about that. We get offended when there's so much opinion from the white community saying don't use it because it's almost kind of like
I understand where you're coming from.
You don't set the standard of language in our community.
It's not their place. It's not our place.
Let's take a few quick phone calls on this. And again, the number to call is 257-5396. In studio with us is Minister Stretch Sanders. We're talking about race relations. We're talking about these issues. If two kids off campus use the N-word, should they be expelled? In this case, they were arrested and charged with a crime. Again, the number to call, 257-5396. Why don't we start off with Wayne? Wayne, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, Wayne? What do you think about all this?
What's up, Wayne?
I have to agree with you on the point, and it may be my white privilege speaking, but Mr. Stretch said that the N-word with an A is a term of endearment in the community. Well, I would have to agree on one point because it's a greeting in point. They'll say, what's up, N-word with an A. But in the same term, it could be used negatively, like drop the F-bomb, you,
Absolutely. You're right.
So,
you are right.
It needs to be punished on both occasions. It doesn't matter the race of the person using it. It still needs to be punished on both occasions.
All right, Wayne, let's let Stretch respond to that. And I agree with you, Wayne, by the way. I think we're on the same page there. Go ahead,
Wayne's
Stretch.
right. It's a term of endearment until we get upset. And then it's F that N, absolutely. But I think because the word is typically majority used as a term of endearment, we have to be careful with, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to say, like, okay, for example, in a lot of schools, you can't use the N-word with a GA. But the punishment is definitely going to look different if it's an ER. We may not understand that, but that's just the way it has to be because when that word with the ER, typically it comes with swastikas or it comes with a clan uncle. It's a movement behind that, right? When we use the F that GA, it's typically, it doesn't go any further than that.
How often do you think when the word with the ER comes out that it is predicated on hate and not on ignorance?
I think that I've heard, I'll be honest with you, I've heard when I was in high school, white students use the GA, right? And I would tell them, look, I don't know how y'all get down in Vegas, but I'm from Chicago, that ain't how we do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't just like take off on them. I backed up and I saw that black students let them get a pass. You know, like, this is the cool white boy. Okay, I don't get it. Something different. So you can use wisdom to know when it's a time to teach, when it's time to get upset. But I think that sometimes, depending on the situation, and these gentlemen being drunk, they probably could be cool guys, probably didn't mean no harm. But we have to question, why was they so comfortable to say it when they're drunk? Like I said, what you are when you're sober will come out when you're drunk.
Yeah.
So we have to still question that. So in that case, can we say they meant what they said? So that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't just give them, okay, we're going to give them a pass, some type of consequence. But we can't view we just cannot view the way the white families use it in the same context as the black family.
Absolutely. And I certainly would not disagree with you when it comes to that. 257-5396, the number to call. Let's go to Gary. Gary, you're next on the Vegas Take. You're on with Minister Stretch. Go ahead, Gary.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you call it? I have my own opinion, and it's not your opinion, but I think the N-word should be used constantly everywhere. In fact, I think that Minister Stretch should get on a public bus in Las Vegas and start scolding these young men if you're against it. They're already using the N-word this, N-word that all over the bus, and that's okay? No, that's not okay. In fact, I'm white, and I've been called that by, some black guys. They don't know me.
So you're saying the N-word should never be used ever. Is that what you're saying?
It should be used all the time. No double standards. Enough of this double standard, all this crybaby stuff. This is America, free speech. I want more white people using that word. I want that word used on the radio.
Why would you want that word used? Why? Okay. All right, Gary. Let's let Stretch respond to that. That's a ridiculous opinion. Go ahead, Stretch.
Well, and what's his name?
Gary.
Gary.
Well, Gary, thank you for your thoughts. Wow. I mean, I've never heard that perspective, Gary. Not too many times, Gary, I'm lost for words.
Use it more, right?
So Gary said that we should all use the word, should be double standard. The N-word should, whether it's ERGA, it should just be used as a cool thing.
No.
Gary, I think that's not the way we should progress as a nation. I think that end of the day, nobody's saying that the word should be. We're all saying the same thing, that the white family shouldn't use it. They believe the black family shouldn't use it. I agree. My perspective is just I'm letting you all know why we use it and the intent behind it. But that doesn't mean if I had it my way, I would take the whole word because GAER doesn't matter.
Like for example, there was a comedy special by Dave Chappelle recently on Netflix, and I watched it, and that word was used 50, 60 times. And all races are watching that comedy special. And if you're an 8, 9-year-old kid watching that, you think it's okay.
Sure,
of course,
if he's using
and that's to Stretch's point that he just made, that there is young white people that use that word and throw the A on the end of it. Hey, I'm not a parent, but I'm also an uncle, and I have a lot of Puerto Rican as well as Mexican relatives, and they use it as well too. The young people. I'm talking about the younger people, the millennials. So I mean, there is some credence a little bit to what Gary was saying as far as that goes, but all the other stuff is a little bit.
Let's
nonsense.
just be honest.
Yeah.
Black people set the tone in America for cool culture. We always have.
It's true.
We've always had. We are the coolest race on the planet. we dress good. We talk good. So every race is influenced by that.
Sometimes you dress good.
Yes,
Sometimes I disapprove.
Of course.
When the pants are down to the ankles and I have to see somebody's ass, I wouldn't say that's dressing good. That's just my opinion.
That's something different. I agree. But for the most part, we've always set the culture and the tone of coolness.
That
So
just has to
unfortunately,
be unpractical, doesn't it?
Unfortunately, we have made other people think it's cool. And I think that at the end of the day, we have to hold ourselves accountable as well. And that's my argument with some of my black counterparts is that we use it and they say, and I agree, we can say it, but you can't. But at the end of the day, you should let it go too. Yeah. And that's where me and a lot of my family disagrees because they feel like, well, hey, I'm going to keep saying it. They shouldn't say it. But we set the tone for this cool culture.
When you say cool culture, you mean like swag? Like
just that swag and you know how the comedians use it and how black comedians tell jokes opposed to other comedians.
Not the way Kramer used it from Seinfeld. Not the way he used it, but anyway.
And I think because it's so high saturated. It's just. Yeah. But like I said, if I had it my way, I would take that GA word, because at the end of the day, you just can't take some things and make it a positive.
I think it does more bad than good.
I agree.
Word.
Okay, so here's what I want to do. Okay, we're up against a break here, and we're going to take some callers when we come back. But here's what I want to discuss, and this is going to be opening up a whole can of worms. Okay, Donald Trump yesterday compared Afghanistan, saying that Afghanistan is safer than Chicago. Now, we know there's a lot of crime in Chicago. We know there's a lot of black-on-black crime in Chicago. Even though that the crime rates have gone down over the last 4 years, it is still a serious problem. But is it fair? I'll pose this question to you, and I want to get your answer when we come back. Do you think it's fair for the President of the United States, he's also the president for Chicago as well, to say that Afghanistan, an area that has harbored terrorists for years, where else the bin Laden family grew up, is a safer place to live as an American than Chicago? I want to get your take on that when we come back, and we'll take your phone calls. We have some people on hold. We'll get to you when we come back. 257-5396, 702-257-5396. Take a break. Be back right after this. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. We got Minister Stretch Sanders in studio talking about race. We're talking about the use of the N-word, and now we're going to be talking a little bit about Donald Trump. We'll be taking your phone calls, too, in just a second here. 257-5396. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of this conversation, 702-257-5396. So Donald Trump is now saying that if you live in Afghanistan, it's safer than Chicago. St. Louis, by the way, has the highest gun-related homicide rate among U.S. cities. It is not Chicago. And Donald Trump also claimed that more than 1,500 people were murdered since Johnson was appointed police superintendent back in 2016. Chicago police data shows more than 2,200 people actually were murdered during that time. And Trump also claimed that 13,000 people had been shot under Johnson's command. Since April 2016, it's been under 12,000. But we all can agree that Chicago's a dangerous place in certain areas, very dangerous. And the black-on-black crime in Chicago, the gang-related crime, is horrible. Now, speaking of Chicago, Trump also compared the Jussie Smollett scam to the impeachment inquiry during a speech in Chicago as well, which I thought was utterly ridiculous. So we're taking your phone calls on that. So let me ask you this, Stretch, before we go to the phone lines at 257-5396. Do you think it's fair for the President of the United States, not just Washington, D.C., to say that it is more safe to live in Afghanistan than Chicago?
Well, I know years ago, and to this day, they still compare Iraq to Chicago, and they call Chicago Chirac. So in some references, it's not totally bad. I think it's bad for him to keep speaking on cities and conditions that he's not trying to fix. Mm-hmm. So even though he's comparing it to a foreign place, he wanted to bring in martial law. That was his solution, and bring in the National Guard. He wasn't trying to bring in resources. We call it black-on-black crime, but it's just crime. Every ethnicity kills who they're around. And the so-called black-on-black crime is a product of low-funded schools, no jobs, no resources, locking up the father out the home. The mother got to work 2 jobs. She's strung out on drugs. Are there those who rise out that condition? Yes, me being one of them. I'm from Chicago, the south side of Chicago. But my mother had to have 2-3 hustles to make us work and to survive. So at the end of the day, he wants to bring in and the police and bring in more policing and knock Superintendent Johnson. But at the end of the day, nobody's bringing in the resources. Nobody's talking about how do we lift people out this condition. Mm-hmm. Crime is a result to people trying to survive. It's not because people just want to commit crime. Nobody grows up and says, I want to be a president. Well, I want to be a criminal. No, that's due to a condition. And we get placed in a condition in Rome, do what the Romans do.
Yeah. No,
in that situation, and you obviously have experience with this considering where you're from, but Chicago has been it's been a Democratic city for a long, long time. And Rahm Emanuel, I don't know how you think he's done as a mayor, but
horrible.
Do you think that if Chicago was a Republican city, that this amount of crime would not exist?
I think if it was a Republican city, it would probably be just as bad, if not worse. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the Republicans are those who are more wealthier, a lot of those who have more resources. And so if the Democrats don't want to put in resources, which are typically a party that is a little more progressive, a little more I'll reach out and lift you up, you know, Republicans ain't doing. Most Republicans' mindset is I got mine, get yours.
You know, and
yeah,
to
Minister, there's a reason, right, why there's not, more Republicans that are from the south side of Chicago, right? There's a reason why there's not more Republicans that aren't from South Central Los Angeles, right? I mean, there's kind of a method to the madness there as to what their allegiance is.
Mm-hmm.
And to the statement about Afghanistan, that's actually very, very, I mean, it's patently false. There's been 1,176 deaths in the last 3 months in Afghanistan, 2 of which were massive suicide bombings. You don't have that in Chicago.
No.
But that being said, Chicago is a very dangerous,
dangerous
place. But
place.
Trump can't make a statement like that.
There's a better way to handle
it is
this.
completely incorrect.
Yes, we all agree in this room there's a better way to handle this situation. Number to call, Stretch Sanders, the minister in studio, 702-257-5396. Why don't we start off with Sally? Sally, thanks for being patient and waiting on hold. You're next.
Oh, hi there. No, not at all. Thank you. I had called originally because I wanted to talk about the free speech that's frightening to me, that people are being penalized either by being arrested or, like in New York, being fined for saying certain words. I think the problem can be maybe helped by children learning from all races certain words are not acceptable. But if we are going to penalize people by saying certain words, would black people be penalized for saying the word cracker, which is offensive to white people?
Stretch, go ahead and respond to that. Sally, hang on the line here. Let's let Stretch. Hang on. Let's let Stretch respond to that. Go ahead, Stretch.
Good question, Sally.
Thank you, Sally, for the question. So, when it comes to the word cracker, that term actually we start calling the slave master cracker because they would crack us with the whip. So that's where it comes from. So it's not even as derogatory as being called the N-word. It was almost kind of like you hitting me with the whip, you cracking me with the whip, you the cracker. Of course, you see the old Jeffersons or All in the Family where the term was used and like cracker and hunky and things like that. But it can still be considered, I'm not white, so I can't tell you what to be offended by. So it can still be considered a term, a slur or something offensive. But once again, it's apples and oranges. We can't compare being called a cracker to being called the N-word. When that word was used, we were being hung, right? Black people have never done to the white race what the white race has done to us.
So here's my response
so
to
two different.
Here's my response to what you're saying, and then Sally, I want to get your
Okay,
response.
what about-
Hold on a second. Let me just give you my response, and then let's let Sally respond, and then JD, I want to hear from you too.
Right.
So my response to this is they're both bad words to use. They're both offensive words. Is there a degree to which word is worse? Yeah, I guess I would agree with you. The N word is probably a more offensive word than calling somebody a cracker. But with that being said, they're both words that shouldn't be used. And my point is, if you're going to, and I think this is what Sally is trying to say, and I'll let her respond, if you're going to police somebody and arrest somebody for using the N-word, you better do the same thing for an African-American
both ways.
for calling a white person cracker. Sally, do you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. There shouldn't be a double standard. And my point is that there should be free speech. It scares me. Brave New World, 1984, here we come.
Sally, thank you so much for your call. We appreciate it.
Now, Stretch, what about a word like peckerwood or Becky? Those are a little more offensive, I would say, than cracker. I mean, it's a derogatory term directed
but you guys
towards
what you guys are
Asians.
addressing though is degree, okay, of certain words.
I'm just saying
what the
that
caller, what she
Becky's
called in
funny.
about. But what she was calling about and what she addressed, and the first thing she said was she's afraid that people are getting thrown in jail or facing
it's a bad
prosecution because of words. Okay, and the fact of the matter is that the case that Brian you pointed out, this case at UConn, it has happened numerous times before. How many KKK rallies have white people yelled racial slurs at black people? How many Nazi rallies have been racial slurs been used
I'll
against
go
Jewish
further.
people? The point being is that this has happened since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And
Show me
now what scares her, and I think what scares a lot of people, is that now you have a possibility of getting thrown in jail for using those words.
Yeah.
That's what freaks people out.
So this is my response. Show me a tape of a black fraternity on a bus singing a racial song about crackers. I can show you a tape of the university that was shown last year. Show me footage of a black mob marching, talking about we want to kill white people. I can show you one in Virginia.
Well, I'll give you one example. Hold on. Let me give you one
and
example.
If you have one example, your one example, I got 20 examples.
No, and I'm sure you do, but I'm saying there are some members of Black Lives Matter that were saying kill police officers, pigs in a blanket. I don't agree with that, and I'm not saying everybody in Black Lives Matter does that. The only point I'm trying to make, whether it's 1 or 1,000, they're all wrong. We all can agree on that. They're all wrong. There are racist people, in my opinion, all colors, all genders. Sadly, I'm not going to, say, well, this race is more racist than that race. I'm just talking about today. I care about now, not to say that there are some horrible atrocities that took place with slavery and among African Americans and, my people with Nazi Germany. But I choose not to, and this is just me, I choose not to focus on the past and what has happened 50 years ago, 300 years ago. I want to focus on what happens now and make sure everybody is treated fairly. The number to call, 257-5396, 702-257-5396. We are joined in studio by Minister Stretch Sanders. Let's go to Stan. Stan, thanks for waiting patiently on hold. You're next on the Vegas Take. Go ahead, Stan.
What's up, Stan?
Okay. We was talking about I can talk about the racism, and then also I will start with the Afghanistan.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
I said, what we know about Afghanistan? The only one who can really talk what's the difference between Chicago and Afghanistan, the guy who is from Afghanistan and live in Chicago. You have somebody like that, then we can see what's a better or worse. Okay, I believe for local people in Afghanistan, it's just as safe, maybe better than Chicago, maybe not. We don't know. We cannot talk. Okay.
So what you're saying, Stan, hang on, Stan, I just want to make sure I'm clear with what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying is unless you have been both in Chicago and Afghanistan, your opinion maybe is not as valid as someone that has been there.
Absolutely. Whatever president says, who really cares? Anybody can say what he wants. He was
Right.
not living in Afghanistan, so why even talk about it, So whatever, about the racism. Okay, the number one, okay, how long it is since we calling people brown, number one. I had Spanish and Mexican girlfriend for a long time. Nobody called brown. It started, and I believe it started from so-called this pro-illegal immigration movement. So they kind of want to slide with black people as a minority, and they want to use them brown. It started about maybe less than 10 years ago. There was never everybody mentioned brown, because I tell you what,
Right.
I know a lot of Mexican, and they are whiter than me, and I'm white.
So let's let Stan. First of all, Stan, I appreciate your perspective, and I want to hear what Stretch has to think about that. I appreciate the phone call. And by the way, the number to call, 257-5396. That's 702-257-5396. Stretch, why don't you respond to that?
I want to respond to Stan's response on Hispanics being called brown to be minorities. Stan, I don't know where you've been at for the last 50 years, but the Hispanic community have always been called brown. At the end of the day, I'm black. Is my skin literally black? No. It's common sense. So at the end of the day, people who are brown, even people who we call white, are y'all white like paper? No. So we have to stop being like so elementary when it comes to colors. We're talking about Hispanic people are brown. Native American people have been historically called red. Asians and Hawaiians have been called yellow. This ain't nothing we just made up on this show today. So in the day, in the 60s, 66, the brown berets, who were who? Mexican. Why would they call themselves the brown berets? So Stan, I would just encourage that you do some research on the Chicano civil rights movement. Cesar Chavez, he referred to his people as brown rights and brown justice. So that's not something that we pulled out. And I think that Hispanic people are a minority in this country.
And I think the caller was trying to make it out to be as if it's something of a negative connotation, right? I don't like you said, it's more common sense, right? It's not offensive. We're not speaking to people offensively when we call them a black person, or we call a white guy like me a white person, or you call a Hispanic person brown. It's just a figure of terminology relating to what we've used for years, and it's not offensive in any way.
I want to talk about a subject that I know, Stretch, you are very passionate about, and that is the issue of homelessness. Las Vegas, according to a Fox News poll, Las Vegas is among one of the highest cities of the homeless rates, as shelters are facing capacity issues. Now, I don't know, the scale of minorities of how many are homeless, but to me, that is a moot issue. And the reason why I say is because if you're homeless, you're homeless. I don't care what you look like. We have to do something about this problem. Talk to me a little bit about the homeless issues, not just facing the entire country. And we all know California has some major issues when it comes to homeless, but we have some major issues right here in Las Vegas. Talk to me a little bit about that and your thoughts on it.
Well, I know years ago, it was a poll that said 10,000 people sleep on the streets in Las Vegas every night. 72% of those are veterans, and 25% of those are women. I would say that, me personally, I think that nationally, the country just does not really care about poverty. There was a picture that's been going viral on social media of a family at a restaurant eating and a man on the street just sleep. Did you think that family walked over and checked on that man? Do you want something to eat? We have when it comes to the quote unquote homeless issue, it's almost kind of like you got yourself out there, get yourself from out of there. I don't even use the term homeless. I say people without homes. I think the word homeless has become a word to strip identity. If a man gets to throwing rocks at this building, we're going to say it's a homeless man. He doesn't have a race. And a lot of times you just say homeless person. He don't have a gender. They don't have a race. They don't have an identity. So if you have homeless, they don't call us the home more. What's the opposite of less? More.
That's true.
So at the end of the day, I think the word homeless has just become so derogatory in itself. And the city of Las Vegas in particular is trying to fine people and give misdemeanors for those who are quote unquote camping on the street. Well, what's your solution? You give me a ticket, it's not going to motivate me to, I'm going to use the resources. People have told me personally, I go out and serve as much as I can since 2016, every other Sunday on the streets, people without homes. Every testimony I hear is, Minister Stretch, it's not safe in those shelters. Some individuals in there got mental health issues. They not right. I'm safer in the street. I'm safer in a park.
That's sad.
They find you in the parks. They make you leave the parks now. So we have to have more compassion. As a human family, red, black, brown, white, and yellow, we have lost our compassion for those who are on the street. Me being a minister, it hurts my heart because a lot of these people so-called believe in a God or a higher being, but the Bible talks about helping the least of these, helping those impoverished, helping those who are poor. We had this black rally, this Black Justice Rally, National Day of Outrage, in front of the Regional Justice Building. In front of that Regional Justice, there were 15 folks lined on the street sleep. How are folks sleep in front of a building with the word justice? That's a hypocrisy in itself.
So we
don't care.
So let me ask you this then. And by the way, I will say I've seen JD on multiple occasions give food and money to the homeless. I have seen
JD.
that. We have an inappropriate, funny story that I will not share right now.
I do it regularly.
But
we saw JD help people without homes.
He has a good heart.
Right.
I've seen him do that a lot. He's a better person than me. I've done that from time to time, but I'll tell you one thing I haven't done. I haven't given homeless people money. I've given them food and drinks in my car. Sadly, at times, some snacks that were sitting there for a while that I wasn't going to eat. I'll be honest, and I will say that. But I still give people food because I'm not comfortable giving someone that's homeless money because I believe that in many instances they're going to use that for drugs or alcohol because they have mental illness or because they have substance abuse problems. So let me ask you this question. This is a very difficult issue. Stretch, what do you do? What do we do as a society when we have thousands of people, as you said, possibly 10,000 any given night, sleeping on the streets? Who's going to pay for it? What do we do with these people? And who's paying for it? I mean, what's the answer? I don't know what the answer is. What's the answer?
Well, first we have to change our mentality. It bothers me, and I disagree with you when people say, I don't give money. Me and my wife watched a documentary, shout out to my wife, Kendall, watched a documentary on how women survive on the streets. Mm-hmm. These ladies say they have to use socks. They have to take T-shirts and make pads and tampons. Mm-hmm. So when you say that you don't give money, what's she going to do? Put a burger between her legs?
But
so at the end of the day,
I'm not saying everybody on the streets drinks. I'm not saying everybody, but you have to agree that there is a large portion of people that are homeless that do have substance abuse problems. Not all, that have substance abuse
gambling problems.
But at some point, they're going to need money to survive, right? If I was on the street, I'm a minister. I've never smoked or drank in my life. I might be out there getting high and drinking. It's survival, but it's not up to me to say I'm not going to give you money. Food is not the solution to everything. Sometimes they need a blanket, they need resources. It takes money to buy that. Even places, if they want to go into a store and just gamble just to get out the cold, you need money for that.
I think it's a case-by-case basis. I want to know, first of all, how did they get there?
Well,
how did they get to the situation that they are in? Go ahead, JD.
What if I told you that a lot of the homeless in the United States are actually former military? Who just didn't have
PTSD
for a number of reasons, who just didn't have the benefits and were not given enough from the government to survive.
There are cases of that, I am sure. They're out there.
Or for example, we had the attorney on about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he said that he's an attorney downtown, and he owns a law firm, and he has a beautiful building down there. And every day he wakes up, and he goes outside, and he literally scrapes up feces and urine off of and throw up and whatever else, and syringes right off of his basically his front porch.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll go and he'll ask one of the homeless, he'll ask one of the people that he thinks, actually defecated on his property, why are you doing this? And then he'll come back the next day and it'll be running down the top of his door. Because a lot in situations like this, sometimes there's malice involved in trying to destroy someone else's property because you are homeless.
Now, let's ask that lawyer.
And that lawyer actually described that perfectly on this show probably 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Let's ask that lawyer, how many people have he taken out of his own pocket to help these people? People don't care. We say who's going to pay for it, we're going to pay for it. We blow money on everything. I'm even finna put aside a actual savings account so I can actually do more for the community. And, and like I said, I do as much as I can, what I can. But my goal is to have a building. I want to have a building called the Lean On Me Center. My organization will host with a food pantry, a clothing center, showers, and it's not about giving a handout. It's a hand up. You say how they get that? All it takes is for you to get fired, don't get another job in time, unemployment run out, you on the street.
Okay, let's say, for example, like in Los Angeles, where the problem is actually much, much worse than it is here. For example, this recent fire, it sounds like it was caused by a homeless person or home, whatever. A person without a home. A person without a home. The rent there is probably twice the cost that it is in Las Vegas.
Twice? I would say 4 times more.
You're looking at $3,000, $3,200 for a decent one-bedroom place. I mean, do you realize how much money it would cost to put a homeless person into a home and get them on their feet in a city like Los Angeles? I mean, it's $50,000, $70,000 just over 6 months probably to make that happen. I mean, no one really has that type of money to hand. I mean, you'd have to raise millions, if not billions of dollars. I mean, billions and billions of dollars in areas like this where the rent is so high to make this work. What are your thoughts on that, Stretch?
This is what I propose. I propose we do a challenge. We want to do everything else challenge. Let's do an adopt a person off the street challenge. It's more of us in homes than without homes. We can agree to that. Mm-hmm. If every one of us pick a person that your spirit just moves you could take a couple months to find that person outside of Christmas and Thanksgiving. Because to me, that's just fake. Everybody want to be loving when it's Christmas Day. Don't just give love. Give love every day. So at the end of the day, let's pick a person outside the holidays that you're going to literally mentor and rise out of that condition. We can do that. When we say who's going to pay for this, we want the government to do everything, give us the money, give us the budget.
I get what you're saying.
Individual people are going to be the ones who are going to change this world.
In theory, that sounds great, but logically, considering the economy and inflation, it's just how difficult really is.
Let me lay this all out, and I think all of you are making very valid points. Let me be clear on that. But I don't think it makes me selfish if I'm sitting in a restaurant having a meal and I see 20 homeless people within a block, and I don't reach out to every single one of those homeless people and hand them money or give them something. I don't think that makes me selfish. With that being said, I'm also scared to walk up to a random stranger that is a homeless person. I don't know if they have a knife. I don't know if they have a gun. I don't know who they are. So what I think should happen, this is my opinion on what you're talking about, is come up with some sort of website, and if people want to go out there and they want to collect names of where people are located, where they are homeless, yes, and then we can, sponsor someone and as you said, mentor someone, then that's something I would be comfortable doing. I am not comfortable right now going downtown and going into those areas and dressed, as a person that has some sort of money in a nice car. I'm not comfortable driving down there and going up to complete strangers that may or may not have drug issues. They may have weapons on them. I just don't feel safe doing that. And I don't think that makes me a selfish person. I just think that makes me a self-conscious person, of my surroundings. I'm okay with doing what you're doing, but we need to do it in a safe way. And I think that safe way would be developing some sort of website where you can find someone and they're screened and you know that they're safe and they just need help.
Well, think about this logically. Say you're walking in a gas station and there's someone out there that you know is homeless or that you think is homeless, and what does that mean? That means that they don't have access to showers, they don't have access to washing their hands, and they may have access to a lot of diseases,
sure,
a lot of drug use. I mean, they may actually handle feces on a consistent basis. Would you be comfortable shaking their hand, and is that a problem, not being comfortable shaking their hand? I don't think that it is.
No, I think that's fair.
I think that's self-preservation. What do you think about that, Stretch?
When I go out and serve, I go out there, we see people who are white, black, brown, red, yellow, don't matter to me. I love on them like they're family. I hug them. I shake their hands. Now, be honest, when I go to the bathroom, I probably wash my hand like
that's you.
I ain't washed before. But
right,
at the end of the day, that's love.
But
I'm
that's
not knocking
you
you for being self-conscious of wanting to go out there. But to me, I believe the robber who's finna go rob, if he runs to somebody who says, here's $100, I want to bless you today, he's not going to go rob, because he's going to take that as a sign like, wow, we have to start being more concerned with, if I don't help this person, what's going to happen? We so worried about the person coming up to us. At any moment while you eating, that person come in that restaurant and shoot all y'all up. Mm-hmm. But by you walking past and saying, man, here's some lunch, stay encouraged.
But
I'm to the
which
point where
I do on a consistent basis.
even when I don't have
He
money to
does do
give,
that.
I wrote my one and I said, brother, I'm sorry, I don't have no change on me, but you stay
and I-
encouraged.
listen,
It's gonna get
Stretch,
better.
the homeless problem in the Vegas is actually it's very mixed race. It's not
Absolutely.
just it's
I-
Caucasians. It's
I
not Filipinos. I
appreciate-
mean, it's not just African Americans.
I appreciate the fact that you've done that. You are more courageous than I am, and I know you're a good man, and I'm glad you do those things. But my question is, listen, as you know, we're living in tough times now. There are a lot of people that are living paycheck to paycheck that are not able to just hand out $100 to a homeless person. However, where are the Sheldon Adelsons? Where are the Steve Wynns? What are they doing to help the homeless
that's a
problem?
legit question.
You know, and I think that is a fair question to ask. I'm not asking Steve Wynn to go, homeless person to homeless person and dish out $100 bills. But what I am asking for is how about build some facilities?
Well,
These are
especially-
billionaires.
Especially Sheldon Adelson, who's actually in some cases probably getting rich off of these people losing their livelihood to gambling problems.
Yeah.
His net worth is $37.4 billion. He can't give $1.5 billion. Of course he can.
This is a
And that's a great point, Brian.
This is a very important topic. I promise you next week when you come in, we're probably going to continue this conversation. And I want to know, maybe you can think about this in the next week or so. And I want to know some solutions that we all can be involved in to help, because I think this is a very important issue and we need to do it.
Well, I would say this. I think that we have to get back our humanity. I don't care what you are, what you do for a living. We all can spare something to help somebody in need. We're responsible. I don't care what race you are, what demographic, what class. We have a responsibility to uplift humanity. And the moment we stop doing it is the moment we die.
There's no question. I appreciate your wisdom coming in here and talking about all these serious issues. Stretch, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate
Thanks a lot,
it.
Stretch.
Always a good time when you come
Absolutely.
in. Really, really great conversation. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Carrot Top, ladies and gentlemen. That's
All
right.
right.
Carrot Top coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take.